you ever helped a stranger and instantly wished you hadn't? Out in the middle of nowhere, under a sky so dark it swallows every sound, I thought I was just doing the right thing. But when two men I barely knew started following me down a deserted road, everything changed. I never imagined how fast a simple kindness could turn into a nightmare. That night, I learned that sometimes what you don't see is far more dangerous than what you do. And the truly terrifying question is, what would you do if you realized you were being hunted, with no one around to help? Tonight we're diving into true night drive horror stories that actually happened. So stick close and keep watching till the end to find out what happened, before it was too late. But before we start, make sure to subscribe or follow so you never miss any new chilling releases. If you're enjoying the content, hit like, drop a comment, and share this video. Let's see how many of you truly love this kind of episodes. Now here's your challenge. One of the stories you're about to hear might not be real. It could be completely made up. Or maybe all of them are true. Watch till the end. Try to spot the fake, and leave your guess in the comments. And as for last episode's fake story, it was story number 1. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. And now, let's dive into the darkness together. This happened just over 20 years ago, back when I was 16. I lived with my mom and stepdad in a remote patch of desert about 70 miles west of Las Vegas. Our house was surrounded by nothing but brush and open land. A few scattered homes here and there, but mostly just silence. That kind of isolation can either bring peace or set your nerves on edge. You don't realize which until something forces your hand. That day had been a good one. It was the first time I was allowed to drive alone. I took our old '71 Chevy pickup into town to meet a few friends. We watched a movie, had dinner, hung out for a while, and around 9:30 p.m., I said my goodbyes and headed back. I wasn't super late, but I knew my parents expected me home by 10. They told me to use a payphone if I got delayed. This was before any of us had cell phones. The highway back home was a long stretch of 2-lane blacktop through the Mojave, with no streetlights and barely any signage. Just miles of pitch black and the occasional cactus flashing in your headlights. It was the kind of drive where your thoughts get real loud. I came up to the first of 2 stop signs on the route and saw a sedan parked there with its hazard lights on. It was an older car, beat up, sun-faded, the kind of thing you'd see sitting in a junkyard. I slowed to a stop behind it. One guy stepped out, maybe late 30s, early 40s, walking toward my truck. His hands were at his sides, unthreatening. Nothing about his body language raised alarm bells at first. In that area, stopping to help people was just expected. The desert doesn't play around. Cars overheat, people get stranded, and if they wander too long without water, it can end badly, sometimes fatally. So I rolled down the window a few inches. The guy reeked of alcohol, like it was sweating off him. As he got to my door, I noticed a second man in the passenger seat just watching. That one didn't move or say anything. He just stared. The first guy asked if I could help them push start the car. He said the engine had died and the battery was shot. I asked if it was a stick shift, and he nodded. So I explained I'd line up the truck and give them a push, not by hand, but with the bumper. He seemed to get it. I eased the truck forward and gave their car a gentle nudge. After a few feet, it jerked, sputtered, and came to life. They got out, thanked me, and then, out of nowhere, asked if I wanted to hang out with them. I declined, firmly. I pulled away, thinking it was over. But as I merged back onto the road, I saw their headlights in my mirror, and they weren't turning off. I kept driving, but they stayed close behind. At first, I told myself it might just be coincidence. Maybe they were heading the same way. But to be sure, I turned down a side road that looped toward a different part of town, one with a gas station and a payphone. They turned too. Now, I was fully alert. My heart started pounding. I made another turn, one that led to a dead-end road with only a few homes. If they weren't following me, they'd keep driving. They didn't. They matched every turn I took. I looped again, this time heading toward that gas station, still with me. That's when the panic really set in. I knew I had to think fast. I pulled over to the shoulder and stopped. Their car rolled up slowly and parked behind me. Both doors opened. They got out just like before. Calm, casual, too casual. They started walking toward my truck. They didn't say anything. They didn't rush. But something about how deliberate they moved made my skin crawl. I waited until they were right at the tailgate. Then I floored it. The rear wheels spun out in the gravel, kicking up dust and rock, but I got traction and shot off down the road. I didn't look back. I hit the gas station in record time. It was empty. No cars, no people. Just rows of pumps under flickering lights and a payphone glowing like a lifeline. I slammed the brakes, jumped out, and called home. I told my stepdad everything, why I was late, what had happened. He kept his voice calm but firm. He asked if I could see the gas station clerk. I looked around. No one in sight, not behind the counter. Nowhere. Maybe he was in the back, maybe on break, but the place felt abandoned. My stepdad told me to get home immediately. No lectures, no guilt, just urgency. The sedan never showed up again. I waited a minute, just to be sure, then pulled back onto the road and made a straight shot home. When I pulled into the driveway, my stepdad was already outside, pacing in the porch light, watching the road like a hawk. Nothing happened after that. We never saw the car again, never filed a report. There wasn't much to tell besides a license plate I never got. But I'll never forget how calm those guys were, how methodical, like they'd done it before. And I still wonder, what if I'd gotten out of the truck? What if I'd hesitated? Let me start by saying I don't scare easily. I've worked nights most of my adult life. I've driven long-haul rigs cross-country, walked through industrial sites at 3 a.m., and even spent a year as a private security contractor. Alone in the dark doesn't bother me, until last November. It was just past 1 a.m., and I was driving home from a job site 2 counties over. I had taken a side highway, a 2-lane road called Pine Hollow, because GPS told me it would shave 15 minutes off the trip. I'd driven it before, a few years back. I remembered it being quiet, winding, and mostly lined with forest and old farmland. Not a lot of traffic, which was what I wanted. The night was cold and bone dry, moonless. A thin mist hovered low to the ground, the kind that doesn't quite fog up your windshield, but still makes the world feel distorted. I had a podcast playing, something true crime, but the details were already blurring together with the late hour. I was maybe 30 minutes from home when I saw the sedan. It was parked on the right shoulder, angled slightly toward the road like it had pulled in crooked and never corrected. The headlights were off. The hazard lights weren't blinking, just still, silent. I slowed instinctively, not stopping, but scanning. I'm used to checking on stranded drivers, especially in rural areas where cell service is spotty. It was an older model, some 70s-era 4-door. Definitely vintage. Chrome still visible under the grime. A bit of rust along the edges. The metallic silver-blue paint caught the glow of a street lamp above it, the only light in sight for miles. That's what I remember most. That glow. Warm but faint, like a low-hanging sun filtered through smoke. The street lamp should have made me feel safer, but instead it threw these long, strange shadows around the car, like the mist was thicker right there, like it clung to the vehicle. I slowed to about 15 miles per hour as I passed. No movement inside, no open hood, no flat tires. But then, I saw the plate. HK 1735. It stuck in my head instantly. I don't know why. I wasn't trying to memorize it. It just hit something in my brain, like a trigger. As I passed, I glanced into the driver's seat. There was someone inside. They weren't looking at me. They weren't looking at anything. Just sitting upright, hands on the wheel, completely still. I couldn't make out the face in detail. Too much glare from the windshield. But the skin looked pale. Not just light-skinned. Ashy. Almost gray. I kept driving, but slower now. Something about the car didn't sit right. I glanced in my rear view, and I swear to God it looked like the passenger door was cracked open slightly. I didn't hear it. I didn't see anyone get out. But the door wasn't open before. I drove for another 2 or 3 minutes, telling myself I was being paranoid. Maybe someone had car trouble. Maybe they were just weird. Maybe I imagined the door. Then I saw headlights behind me. Same car, same profile, same single light from the front right side where one bulb must have been out. There was no noise, no revving engine, no squeal of tires. It was just there, tailgating me. I sped up. So did it. I changed lanes on a straightaway stretch, and it stayed glued to my bumper. I couldn't even see the plate anymore in my mirror, just the shape of the hood, swallowing my rear window. At this point, I was more pissed than scared. I've been followed before, usually by some impatient idiot. But something was wrong with this. It didn't feel like road rage. It felt like I had driven past something I wasn't supposed to see. At the next intersection, I took a hard left, nearly missed it, and floored it down a dirt side road that looped through old farmland. The kind of road no one would take unless they lived off it. My tires kicked up clouds of dust and frost. When I looked back again, nothing. The car was gone. I pulled over a mile or two down the road and killed my lights. Waited. My breathing was loud in the cabin. Every few seconds I checked my mirrors. No headlights, no engine sounds. Nothing but frost settling on the glass. I sat there for maybe 10 minutes before easing back onto the highway and finishing the drive home. Didn't see the car again. The next morning, I told my buddy Frank about it. He's a retired trooper. Used to work rural patrol. I mentioned the plate, HK1735, and he looked at me sideways. "That's not a state plate," he said. "Not from around here." He offered to run it anyway, just in case. 2 days later, he texted me. "That plate doesn't exist. Not in any system I can access." I Googled it later out of curiosity, thinking maybe it was a movie reference or something. Found one Reddit thread from 5 years ago, buried deep, about a guy in Vermont who saw a parked car on a logging road. Same setup, vintage sedan, no lights. Plate said HK1735. The thread had no replies. I started driving for UPS when I was 26, not long after Denise and I got married. Honestly, the hours were brutal, especially during peak season, but the pay made up for it. Overtime meant new toys for Denise, a shiny new SUV, an above-ground pool, that sort of thing. These days, she doesn't complain about the long nights anymore. Money softens a lot of edges. The job itself isn't bad. You're on your own, cruising around, listening to whatever you want. It's a mix of cardio and solitude therapy. Sure, there are cranky customers and the occasional unleashed dog that thinks you're invading its kingdom, but mostly it's just deliveries. People are usually happy to see the truck. It's like adult Christmas every day. That said, I've always had a weird feeling delivering after dark. It's not fear exactly, more like my instincts get louder. I keep a heavy flashlight next to me and tend to read houses pretty well before I ever step onto a property. Call it a sixth sense for sketchy driveways. This happened in late 2023, right when the days started getting short again. I was covering part of a route known as the Ridge, about 40 minutes outside the city. It's a retirement community tucked into the hills, high-end, scenic, and carved out of dense forest. Gorgeous during the day. At night, though, a different vibe entirely. That evening I had 2 stops left, both requiring signatures. It was around 8:30, pitch black already. First stop was uneventful. Sweet older woman getting her prescription. Tried to tip me $5. I politely declined, company rules and all that. The second house sat at the end of a long gravel driveway, probably 150 feet or so. No porch lights, which wasn't uncommon, but not ideal. I grabbed the small package, felt like electronics, scanned it, and made my way up. They had motion lights, which helped, until halfway up, when the light stopped and I was swallowed by darkness. Only the faint amber glow of a street lamp way back by the road gave me any reference. I knocked. No answer. Knocked again. Louder. Still nothing. Since it didn't actually need a signature, I placed the box near the door, scanned it, snapped the photo, and turned back toward the truck. That's when I saw it. At first, I thought it was a big dog or maybe someone lurking at the front of my truck. It was hunched low, almost like it was trying to stay hidden, but as I focused, I realized it wasn't shaped like any person or animal I knew. It was big, taller than me, even crouched. And its eyes, they caught the streetlight just right, glowing yellow like a cat's eyes caught in headlights, but way higher off the ground. My first panicked thought? Black bear. There are black bears in that region, though I'd never seen one that close before. I'd seen videos though. Usually they scatter at the sound of a vehicle. This one didn't. I froze. My training kicked in. Don't run. Don't stare. Back away slowly. I did exactly that. One careful step at a time. My truck was behind it. My only shelter. And the ridge doesn't allow fences between lots, so the woods were dense and everywhere. No neighbors in sight. The creature didn't move. Just kept watching me from the front bumper, like it had been hiding under the truck, waiting for I don't know what. Then, suddenly, it shifted. Not toward me, just slightly, but enough to confirm how massive it was. Taller than any bear I'd ever seen, broader at the knees than the shoulders, with limbs that looked too long. I was maybe 20 feet from it when I decided to risk it. I lifted my arms up, made myself look as big as I could, and yelled, "Hey, get out of here!" Nothing. Move! Go! Then it stood up, not in that lurching bear on hind legs kind of way. It rose like a person who'd been kneeling. Smooth, straight, effortless. It was around 7 to 8 feet tall, long limbs, narrow frame, and a strange tilt to the head like it was confused or curious. My mouth went dry. My whole body screamed run, but I couldn't. Not yet. It took 2 steps toward me, long, deliberate, quiet. Then it stopped, head cocked, listening. That's when I heard it too. A car coming down the main road. The thing turned away from me and, in a terrifyingly smooth motion, dropped to all fours and bounded into the woods. It moved like nothing I've ever seen, not lumbering like a bear, but like, I don't even have a reference. Some mix between a primate and a deer, graceful and unnatural. Headlights swept across the entrance to the driveway. I didn't stick around to find out who it was. I bolted for the truck, started it, and tore out of there like my life depended on it. Back at the depot, I was still shaken. The next morning, during our preload meeting, I brought it up, half joking. Any of you guys ever see weird stuff en route? Phillips, a senior driver who'd been with UPS longer than most of us had been alive, looked up from his coffee. What kind of weird? Wildlife, maybe? He paused, looked thoughtful. The ridge, huh? I've heard snarling up there a few times. Big. Not like a dog. Big enough I skipped a delivery once. Felt wrong. Then Peyton chimed in. You know Lakeside? Same deal. Retirement area. Couple years ago, cold February night. I'm doing a drop around midnight. I come around a bend, and there's this woman just standing in the road. I slam on the brakes, figure she's lost or confused. Maybe dementia. But when the lights hit her, he shivered. Clothes soaking wet. Hair matted. Just standing there, smiling. Not shivering. Not moving. What did you do? Turned around. Found another way out. Told dispatch. They said they'd send someone. Next day, no missing persons, no footprints, nothing. The conversation ended when the supervisors walked in. No more stories. Back to business. I've been back to the ridge since then, but only during the day. Our cutoff time for deliveries there got changed to 7 p.m. Driver safety, they said. Poor lighting. Wild terrain. Nothing specific. I never asked what really caused the change. If you've made it to the end of this video, let me know in the comments which story creeped you out the most. And if you could survive only one of them, which one would it be? Don't forget to drop your guess. Which story do you think was the fake one? Also, if you enjoyed the episode, hit super thanks if you're on YouTube, or send us some stars if you're on Facebook to show some love and make your comments stand out. Want to go next level? Get early access to upcoming episodes, exclusive members-only content, and much more by joining our YouTube membership or becoming a Patreon supporter. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's waiting there for you. Don't forget to like, share, and catch up on our previous episodes. And now, stay tuned for the next horror episode.